Hey everyone, ready to boost those English conversation skills? Today we're diving deep into something super practical, describing your daily routine.
Yeah, it comes up more often than you'd think.
Totally. From chats with friends to job interviews, being able to talk about your day is essential.
And you know it's easy to get stuck using the same basic phrases over and over.
Exactly. So we're going to go beyond the basics. We'll give you the vocabulary and confidence to paint a vivid picture of your day in English. From morning till night. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So let's start with the morning routine. We've got some great sources here packed with practical examples. First up, waking up. Instead of just saying, I wake up at 7, how can we make it sound a bit more natural?
Well, just adding a simple usually can make a big difference. Like I usually wake up around 7, but sometimes I hit snooze a couple of times.
I like that. It adds a bit of personality, right? Because you sound more like a real person.
Exactly. It shows that you're not a robot.
And speaking of robots, what about that morning phone check? Are you guilty of scrolling through social media before even getting out of bed?
Oh, definitely. It's like a reflex at this point.
So how would you describe that in English?
I'd say something like, the first thing I do is check my notifications. Or maybe even, I'm definitely guilty of scrolling through social media for a few minutes before facing the day.
I feel seen. Okay, so we're up. We've checked our phones. What's next?
Freshening up. Time to brush those teeth, wash your face. You know the drill.
But how can we say that in a more interesting way?
Instead of just, I brush my tooth, try adding some detail. Like, I brush my teeth and splash some cold water on my face to wake myself up.
Ooh, I like that. It's like we're right there with you. Okay, now I got to ask, are you a morning workout person?
Not really my thing. I'm more of an afternoon or evening exerciser.
That's fair. But for those who do enjoy a morning workout, how can they describe that in English?
Well, instead of a simple I exercise, they could say, I head to the gym for a quick workout before the day gets crazy. Or maybe I squeeze in a 30-minute yoga session to clear my mind. Something like that.
Yeah, those sound way more engaging. And it's a good opportunity to practice using location-specific vocabulary too, right?
Absolutely. Like mentioning the gym, the park, or even just your living room if you're working out at home.
Now let's talk about fuel. What's your go-to breakfast?
Oh, I'm pretty basic. I always start my day with a bowl of oatmeal and a cup of strong coffee.
Coffee is a must for me too. But I like to mix things up with my food. Sometimes it's toast and fruit. Other days it's a smoothie.
That's a good point. There's no one right answer here. The key is to find what works for you and be able to describe it in English.
And even something as simple as breakfast can be a chance to expand your vocabulary, right?
Totally. For instance, instead of eat, you could say, I grab a quick bite, or I fuel up with a healthy breakfast.
Those are great alternatives. Now, once we're fueled up, it's time to get ready for the day. How can we describe that process beyond just getting dressed?
Well, think about the specific steps involved. You could say, I carefully choose my outfit for the day. Or maybe if you're more of a grab-and-go person, you could say, I throw on the first thing I see, comfort over style.
Uh-huh. I've definitely been there. So it's all about being honest and reflecting your own style.
For sure. And if you want to be even more descriptive, you could say something like, I try to put together a professional look for work, but on weekends, it's all about jeans and a t-shirt.
That's a great example. Now, how do we talk about the commute, especially for those who take public transport?
Right. So instead of simply saying, I take the bus, you could say, I hop on the bus and use the commute to catch up on my reading.
I love that. It's like you're making the most of that travel time.
Exactly. Or if you're more of a visual person, you could say, I try to snag a window seat so I can enjoy the view.
Okay, so we've made it to work or school. What are some dynamic ways to describe what we do there?
It really depends on your job or your studies, of course. But let's start with those working from home.
Good idea.
Instead of I start working, you could say, I settle into my home office and tackle my to-do list.
Sounds way more productive. And for those in more traditional work environments, how can we go beyond simply stating our job title?
You can describe your typical tasks like, I spend most of my day responding to emails and attending meetings, or I'm currently working on a big project that's keeping me busy, something like that.
I think that's a key takeaway here. Adding that currently, or at the moment, really brings the present continuous tense to life.
Yeah.
It shows that the action is ongoing, right?
Absolutely. And it's a great way to showcase your grasp of different tenses.
So what stands out to you so far about describing your routine in English?
I think it's the realization that even small tweaks in vocabulary and phrasing can make a huge difference. It's not about memorizing a script.
Right. It's more about understanding the tools.
Exactly. And using them creatively to express yourself.
And it's about finding those moments in your routine where you can inject a bit of your personality and make the description more engaging for the listener. But before we get too carried away with the workday, let's not forget everyone's favorite part.
The break.
Of course.
Right. Whether it's a quick coffee break or a leisurely lunch, how can we talk about these moments in our day? So instead of a plain, I take a break, why not try something like, I grab a quick coffee and chat with colleagues, or I take a walk outside to get some fresh air and stretch my legs.
Yeah, those are great because they not only describe the break itself, but they also give a little glimpse into your work culture or maybe your personal preferences. It's those details that really bring the routine to life. So we've powered through the workday, maybe enjoyed a refreshing break or two. Now it's time for the evening. How do we describe that transition from work to, home life?
Well, instead of just saying, I leave work, you could make it more vivid. You could say something like, I wrap up my work and head home. Or maybe I commute home while listening to my favorite podcast.
Okay, and what about those errands we often squeeze in after work? How can we make those sound interesting in English?
It's all about adding context. So instead of, I go to the grocery store, you could say, I swing by the supermarket to pick up ingredients for dinner. Or, I make a quick stop at the dry cleaners before they close.
Right. It's like you're giving the listener a reason for why you're doing these things. It makes it more engaging.
Yeah.
And once we're home, those evening activities can really vary, right? Depending on our interests, our lifestyle, all that. So what are some go-to phrases for describing what we do in those evening hours?
Well, if you're someone who loves to unwind with some entertainment, you could say, I catch up on my favorite TV shows. Or maybe I lose myself in a good book for a while. Something like that.
Those sound relaxing. And what about for those who prefer a more active evening?
For them, it could be something like, I hit the gym for an evening workout. Or maybe I attend a dance class to de-stress.
I love those. And let's not forget about those who use their evenings for personal growth or hobbies. What are some phrases we can use for that?
Well, if you're a language learner like our listeners, you could say, I spend some time practicing my English skills. Or I work on my language learning app for an hour or so.
Perfect. And for those with creative hobbies?
You could say, I unleash my inner artist by painting or drawing. Or maybe I work on my latest sewing project. Whatever it is that gets your creative juices flowing.
I'm noticing a pattern here. By adding a specific time frame, like an hour or so, it makes the activity sound more concrete and realistic.
That's a really good observation. It's those little additions that make a big difference. Now, let's not forget about the social butterflies out there, the people who love spending their evenings connecting with others. How can we talk about those interactions?
So instead of just a simple, I see friends, we could be more specific, right?
Exactly. Like, I catch up with friends over dinner, or maybe I have a virtual game night with my friends online. Give it some context.
And for those who prioritize family time,
you could say, I enjoy a delicious home-cooked meal with my family. Or maybe we have a family movie night and cuddle up on the couch.
Ah, that sounds cozy. All right, so as the evening winds down, we all have our little routines to help us, prepare for sleep. How can we describe those pre-sleep routines in a way that's both informative and engaging?
So instead of just, I get ready for bed, you could say, I wind down with a relaxing bath. Or I dim the lights and listen to calming music.
Yeah, those sound so peaceful. And what about those who love to read before bed?
You could say, I escape into a good book before drifting off to sleep.
I love that. And for those of us who need a little extra help to quiet our minds before bed, how can we describe those practices?
There are lots of options. You could say, I meditate for a few minutes to clear my thoughts. Or maybe I practice some deep breathing exercises to relax my body and mind.
Those are becoming increasingly popular. It's good to have the vocabulary to talk about those things. So finally, we're approaching the end of our daily journey. How do we describe that final act of going to sleep?
Instead of a plain, I go to bed, try something like, I slip into my pajamas and climb into bed. Or, I snuggle under the covers and let sleep wash over me.
Those are beautiful. And as we drift off to sleep, it's like we're closing one chapter of our daily routine and getting ready for the next. And it's a cycle that just keeps repeating, giving us endless opportunities to practice and improve our English skills. What are your final thoughts on all this?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey exploring all the ways we can talk about our daily routines in English.
I know, right? We started with those basic phrases, but then we really dug into the nuances and all the different ways you can express yourself.
And it's all about practice, right?
Absolutely. So, listeners, I want you to take what we've talked about today and apply it to your own lives.
Grab a notebook or open up a document and write out your daily routine. Don't be shy, get specific. Use those vivid verbs and time expressions.
Yes. And then the most important part, say it out loud. Practice makes progress. You could even record yourself. Hear how you sound, see where you can improve.
Exactly. And when you think about it, mastering the skill of describing your daily routine, it's a huge step towards improving your overall English fluency and confidence.
For sure. It gives you the tools to have those everyday conversations, connect with people, really express yourself.
And remember, there's always room to grow. So keep challenging yourself. Use new vocabulary, try different grammatical structures, find your own unique voice.
Ooh, I like that. Find your voice. Now, here's a thought to leave you with. What if you try describing your routine from a different perspective?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, what would your day look like from the perspective of your pet, or even an inanimate object in your house?
That's such a fun idea. It's a great way to practice your descriptive language and just have a little fun with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to all our listeners out there, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep those conversations flowing.
And until next time, happy learning.